But the truth is, it's a million miles from the reality of EU-Africa trade policy as it exists now, because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism, perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself. It's portrayed as a poor continent, but actually it's the richest. It's just that the people there are denied the fruits of their land and their labour by unequal economic relations, by unfair trade rules, by illicit capital flights into the Western banks, and by multinational corporations allowed off the leash by Washington, London and Brussels. I don't think you'd have to be a genius to know that the last thing the Horn of Africa needs is more foreign military bases, more weapons and more European meddling. What we call our strategic relationship isn't about human flourishing, it's about the EU's ambitions as a superpower. There's now a new great game in the Horn of Africa. Greater and lesser powers are pockmarking the place with military bases. France, the US, China, Germany, Japan, Italy, Saudi Arabia all have a presence in the tiny area of Djibouti alone. Mercenaries are swarming in from all quarters. The entire region is being militarized. War is in the air. And what about the people facing climate and food insecurity? None of this benefits them. We talk about instability, but we only make it worse. We flood the place with weapons, hand over the profits to European arms companies and charge the bill to our citizens. And then with the carnage, we go back in and we do it all again. It's a racket. Strategic relationship, it's one thing after another, isn't it? Really, it's the same as it ever was. And all I can say is God save Africa from Europeans offering help.
Hello beautiful people, it's great to have you on the channel. So in this video I want us to talk about the whole idea of African and colonization, and it is just in the history books that of that curriculum that was actually left to us, the Africans, by the imperialists, that we get to read that Africa is free from colonial powers, that Africa is not under colonization of Europe anymore. But the reality on the ground is that Africa is still under the grip, a firm grip of Europe. Everything points to that. Now look, if uranium from Niger can power the whole of France at the expense of Niger itself, the producer, then you can't lie to me, you can't lie to Africans who can see this, that we are not under colonization. That is just one case. Of course, we cannot even exploit the case. I mean, we can't even list all of such cases where a former, and quote in quotes, colonial power is still extracting and benefiting massively from resources coming from the country they had colonized, and at the expense of that country itself. So from that video, it's clear that that Europe is doing this deliberately, and Europe knows what it's doing, and it has to do this for its benefit. Now, there's this idea of empower, empower Africa, empower women, empower children, empower the global south, empower this, empower that. The West want to empower everything, yeah? They want to empower everybody in everything that is there. The very idea that they want to empower you is disempowering you. That's a psychological tactic. You might want to look from a perspective that is actually selling a narrative that you are not powerful, you don't have your power. You need to get power by relying on them to empower you. That's a psychological tactic already that Africa has bought that narrative a long time ago, and they are waiting for empowerment from the West, from Europe, so they can become powerful like them, which is obviously a big lie. Because do you think that Europe Do you think that your competitor is willing to get you to their level so you can compete from there? No, that's not true. So the whole idea of telling Africa that Europe is here to empower Africa to do, is actually a psychological tactic to disempower you, for you to think that without them you're not powerful. But look, this is what Africa needs. Africa does not need that sort of empowerment that they do in, when we know what's really happening behind the curtains. What Africa needs is fair returns and fair compensation of their resources, and from those that they are currently exploiting them. That's all Africa needs. We know that Africa has a potential, to actually even run, to produce as much as resources enough to run the whole globe. But it doesn't do that. It doesn't even admit half of its potential because it's not empowered like what empowerment should be to really do that. Because the only person that is supposed to empower Africa is the African himself and herself. Africa should empower herself to produce as much as it can. Someone else is not going to do that unless for a benefit. A perfect example of our is when the government empowers you so you can be able to pay taxes. So because of course it's empowering you so it can gain a lot more. A producer, a manufacturer will empower you by selling you all the myths and narratives of a product so you can consume their useless products. That is the sort of empowerment. That is exactly what is happening with the West, Europe, and Africa. They want you to buy a narrative so that they can eventually, as a benefit, be the long-term major benefits of the so-called empowerment. So wake up, Africa, and empower yourself and fight for your own power. Nobody is coming to fight for to empower you really like it looks. The ground has never been leveled at any given point. Nobody is going, your competitor, your opponent is not going to level the ground. They're going to take any advantage that is there to exploit it, to make sure that the race is going to go, is going to be in their favor. Yeah, so what I have to say here is that wake up, Africa, and get to empower yourself. Nobody is here to empower yourself, to empower you other than yourself. So wake up, Africa. Please share your thoughts about this in the comments and like this video, share this video, and see you in the next video. Peace.